Where Go the Boats by Robert Louis Stevenson. Dark brown is the river, golden is the sand. It flows along forever, with trees on either hand. Green leaves a-floating, castles of the foam. Boats of mine a-boating, we will all come home. On goes the river, and out past the mill. Away down the valley, away down the hill. Away down the river 100 miles or more, other little children shall bring my boats ashore. Where Go the Boats by Robert Louis Stevenson. Lobo Craspus, Crucifusa by Ted Kooser. This is the tiny moth who lives on tears, who drinks like a deer at the gleaming pool, at the edge of the sleeper's eye, the touch of its mouth as light as a cloud's reflection. In your dream, a moonlit figure appears at your bedside and touches your face. He asks if he might share the poor bread of your sorrow. You show him the table. The two of you talk long into the night. But by morning, the words are forgotten. You awaken serene in a sunny room, rubbing the dust of his wings from your eyes. Lobo Craspus, Crucifusa by Ted Kooser.
Psalm 82. God has taken his place in the divine council. In the midst of gods, he holds judgment. How long will you judge unjustly and show partiality to the wicked? Selah. Give justice to the weak and to the fatherless. Maintain the right of the afflicted and the destitute. Rescue the weak and the needy. Deliver them from the hand of the wicked. They have neither knowledge nor understanding. They walk in darkness. All the earth's foundations are broken. I said, you're gods, all of you, sons of the Most High. Nevertheless, like men, you shall die, and like any prince, you will fall. Arise, O God, judge the earth, for you shall inherit the nations. Psalm 82, a psalm of Asaph.
When Young Melissa Sweeps by Nancy Bird Turner. When young Melissa sweeps a room, I vow she dances with the broom. She curtsies in a corner brightly and leads her partner forth politely. Then up and down in jigs and reels, with gold dust flying at their heels, they caper. With a whirl or two, they make the wainscot shine like new. They waltz beside the hearth, and quick it brightens, shabby brick by brick. A gay gavotte across the floor, a Highland fling from door to door, and every crack and corner's clean, enough to suit a dainty queen. If ever you are full of gloom, just watch Melissa sweep a room. When Young Melissa Sweeps by Nancy Bird Turner.
The Butterfly and the Bee by William Osborne. Methought I heard a butterfly say to the laboring bee, Thou hast no colors of the sky on patent wings like me. Poor child of vanity, those colors dyed bright and rare. With my reproof the bee replies, Are all beneath my care. Content I toil from morn to eve, scorn and idleness I leave. The tribe of golden sloth I leave. The Vanity of Jest by William Osborne. The Butterfly and the Bee.
Bed in Summer by Robert Louis Stevenson. In winter I get up at night and dress by yellow candlelight. In summer quite the other way, to have to go to bed by day. I have to go to bed and see the birds still hopping on the tree, or hear the growing at people's feet still going past me in the street. And does it not seem hard to you when all the sky is clear and blue? I should like so much to play to have to go to bed by day. Bed in Summer by Robert Louis Stevenson.
The Kites by Daphne Lister. Up in the air, sea kites fly, like other birds in the wind-whooped sky. I wish I were small, and light as air. I would climb on a kite and sail up there. Then I drift upon the paper winds and hear the songs that the wild wind sings. What fun it would be to look right down over the park and the rooftops of town. Then the people below would stand and stare, and they wish they were me, high, high in the air. The Kites by Daphne Lister.
The Balloon by Carla Kuskin. I went to the park and I bought a balloon, and it sailed through the sky like a large orange moon. It bumped and it floated, it swam with the clouds, Small birds flew around it in high chirping clouds. It bumped and it bounced, and it bowed with the breeze. It skimmed past the leaves on top of the trees, and then when the day started turning to night, I gave a short jump and I held the string tight. Home wheels soared through the darkening skies. The orange balloon, small birds and I, the balloon by Carla Kristen.
Psalm 139. Where can I go from your spirit, or where can I flee from your presence? If I ascend to heaven, you are there. If I make my bed in hell, behold, you are there. If I take the wings of the morning and dwell in the uttermost parts of the sea, even there your hand shall lead me, and your right hand shall hold me. If I say, surely darkness shall fall on me, even the night shall be a light about me. Behold, indeed darkness shall not hide from you, but the night shines as day and the darkness light are both alike to you. Psalm 139.
An excerpt from Learning to Ski with Mr. McGee by Chris Van Dusen. The moose turned around, and what did he see? Mr. McGee and his little dog Dee. The moose was so shocked that he stood frozen in fear, but Mr. McGee hadn't learned how to steer, and he knew very soon that they were going to collide. So he called to the moose, "Do please subside." The moose didn't move, so Mr. McGee yelled, "Duck!" That was the moment they ran out of luck. Because while they were sliding right under the moose, the tips of the skis snapped out like a spruce. A flash and a flip, they flew over the log, tossing poor Mr. McGee and his dog head over heels straight to the gap when the ends of the skis came down with a slap. So there they were, stranded, McGee and his pup, across the ravine, 100 feet up. An excerpt from Learning to Ski with Mr. McGee by Chris Van Dusen.
Trees by Alfred Joyce Kilmer. I think that I shall never see a poem as lovely as a tree. A tree whose hungry mouth is pressed against the earth's sweet flowing breast. A tree that looks at God all day and lifts her leafy arms to pray. A tree that may in summer wear a nest of Joyce Kilmer.
Arcus by Eleanor Farr June. Arcus was a puppy, frisk and full of joy. Ulysses was his master, who sailed away to Troy.
Argus on the seashore washed his white track and barked a little puppy bark to bring his master back. Argus was an old dog, too gray and eyed for tears. He lay outside the house door and watched for 20 years. When 20 years were ended, Ulysses came from Troy. Argus wagged an old dog's wag, and then he died for joy. Argus by Eleanor Farjune.
Psalm 100. Make a joyful noise unto the Lord, all the earth. Serve the Lord with gladness. Come into his presence with singing. Know that the Lord, he is God. It is he who made us. We are his people and the sheep of his pastures. Give thanks to him. Bless his name. For enter his gate with thanksgiving and his courts with praise. Give thanks to him. Bless his name. For the Lord is good. It is his steadfast love endures forever and faithfulness to all generations.
The Cow by Robert Louis Stevenson. The friendly cow all red and white I love with all my heart. She gives me cream with all her might to eat with apple tart. She wanders low and here and there, and yet she cannot stray. All in the open, pleasant air, the pleasant light of day. And blown with all the winds that pass, and wet with all the showers, she walks among the meadow grass and eats the meadow flowers. The Cow by Robert Louis Stevenson.
Now we are 6 by A. Mill. When I was 1, I had just begun. When I was 2, I was nearly new. When I was 3, I was hardly me. When I was 4, I was not much more. When I was 5, I was just alive. But now I am 6, I'm as clever. So I think I'll be 6 now, forever and ever. Now we are 6 by A. Mill.
The Little Plant by Kate Louise Bram. In a heart of seed, buried deep, so deep, a little plant laid fast asleep. Wake, said the sunshine, and creep to the light. Wake, said the voice of the raindrops bright. The little plant heard, and it rose to see what the wonderful outside world might be. The Little Plant by Kate Louise Bram.
An excerpt from The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe by C.S. Lewis. Who is Aslan? Asked Susan. Aslan, said Mr. Beaver. He's the king. He's the lord of the whole woods. But not after here, you understand? Never in my time or my father's time. But the word has reached us. He has come back. He is in Narnia at this moment. He'll saddle the White Queen all right. Is he not you who will save Mr. Tumnus? He won't turn him into stone too, said Emma. Lord love you, son of Lamb. What a simple thing to say, answered Mr. Beaver. An excerpt from The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe by C.S. Lewis. She sailed away, author unknown. She sailed away one bright summer day on the back of a crocodile. You see, said she, he's as tame as he can be. I'll ride him down the Nile. The croc winked his eye while she was waving them all goodbye. Riding him down the Nile. At the end of the ride, the lady was inside. The smile was on the crocodile. She sailed away, author unknown.
Dead in Summer by Robert Louis Stevenson. In winter I get up at night and dress by yellow candlelight. In summer quite the other way. I have to go to bed by day. I have to go to bed and see the birds still hopping on the trees, or hear the grown-up people's feet still going past me in the street. And does it not seem hard to you when all the sky is clear and blue? And I should like so much to play to have to go to bed by day. Bed in Summer by Robert Louis Stevenson.
Spring Plays by Ralph Waldo Emerson. For flowers that bloom about our feet, for kindle grass so fresh or sweet, for song of bird and hum of bee, for every cake fair we hear or see. Father in heaven, we thank thee, for blue of spring and blue of sky, for a pleasant shade of branches high, for fragrant air of cool and breeze, for beauty of the blooming tree. Father in heaven, we thank thee.
All right, we're ready to get back at it. A few reminders. If you need to use the restroom or get water, please wait between speeches to scoot out and come back in and not interrupt the speeches. Older students, please make sure you're listening and not talking to one another or goofing around. And I guess we're ready to go. Let's stand again and let's ask the Lord to bless the students. Father, we're grateful again for your kindness to us this morning. Be with these students now as they present, that you would give them calm nerves and a good memory for that which they've studied. For Christ's sake, amen.
Lila Jane, and afterwards Michael.
My Shadow by Robert Louis Stevenson. I have a little shadow who goes in and out with me, and what can be the use of him is more than I can see. He's very, very like me from my heels up to my head, and I can see him jump before me as I jump into my bed. The funniest thing about him is the way he likes to grow, not at all like proper children, which is always very slow. For sometimes he shoots up like an India rubber ball, and sometimes he gets so little that there's none of him at all. He hasn't got the notion of how children ought to play, and he can only make a fool of me in every sort of way. He stays so close beside me, he's a coward, you can see. I'd think shame to stick to Nursey as that shadow sticks to me. One morning very early, before the sun was up, I rose and found the shining dew on every buttercup, but my lazy little shadow, like an errant sleepyhead, had stayed at home behind me, and was fast asleep in bed. My Shadow by Robert Louis Stevenson.
Mila will be next.
Foreign Lands by Robert Louis Stevenson. Up into the cherry tree, who should climb but little me? I held the trunk with both my hands and looked abroad in foreign lands. I saw the next door garden lie, adorned with flowers before my eye, and many pleasant places more that I had never seen before. I saw the dimpling river pass, and be the sky's blue looking glass. The dusty roads go up and down, with people tramping into town. If I could find a higher tree, farther and farther I should see, to where the grown-up river slips into the sea among the ships, to where the road on either hand lead onward into fairyland, where all the children dine at 5, and all the playthings come alive. Foreign Lands by Robert Louis Stevenson.
After Mila, Janie.
Maple by Laurie Nichols. Maple loved her name. When she was still a whisper, her parents planted a tiny tree in her honor. Even though Olivia, Millie Jane, Lena, Lily, and Constance were all good names, Maple was the perfect fit. And as Maple grew, so did her tree. One day, Maple noticed her tree was bare, so she decided to take off her jacket and give it to the tree to stay warm. Sometimes Maple wished she had another friend to play with. The tree wasn't very good at throwing snowballs. She wondered if her tree felt the same way. So she introduced her tree to a friend. That friend didn't last. But Maple and her tree still had each other. Through winter and spring, then something surprising happened. Then something really surprising happened. Maple became a big sister. Maple tried to be a good big sister. When the baby was cold, she would give her hat and gloves. When the baby was lonely, she would share her special friends. But Maple couldn't always make the baby happy. And when the baby was noisy, which was a lot, Maple would take her outside to play. Then something magical happened. Maple's tree danced for them both, and there was just enough room under her tree for her little sister, Willow. Maple by Laurie Nichols.
After Janie, Graham.
Riddles of Merlin by Alfred Noyes. As I was walking alone by the sea, what is that whisper, Merlin said to me? Only, I answered, the sigh of the wave. Oh no, replied Merlin, 'tis the grass on your grave. As I lay dreaming in churchyard ground, listen, said Merlin, what is that sound? The green grass is growing, I answered, but he chuckled, oh no, 'tis the sound of the sea. As I walk homeward at dusk by the shore, what is that crimson, Merlin said once more? Only the sun, I answered, sinking to rest. Sunset for east, sunrise for west. Riddles of Merlin by Alfred Noyes.
Eli next.
The Road Not Taken by Robert Frost. Two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both. And be one traveler, long I stood, and looked down one as far as I could, to where it bent in the undergrowth, then took the other, just as fair, and having perhaps a better claim, because it was grassy and wanted wear. But as for that, the passing there had really warned them about the same. And both that morning equally lay, and leaves no step had trodden black. Oh, I kept the other for another day. But knowing how way leads on to way, I doubt that I should ever come back. I shall be telling this with a sigh. Somewhere ages and ages hence, two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. The Road Not Taken by Robert Frost.
Trevor is next.
An Eulogy on the Death of a Mad Dog by Oliver Goldsmith. Good people all of every sort, give ear unto my song, and if you find it wondrous short, it cannot hold you long. In Islington there was a man, of whom the realm might say, a kind that still a godly race he ran, when he put on his clothes. A kind and gentle heart he had to comfort friends and foes. The naked every day he clad when he put on his clothes. And in that town a dog was found, as many dogs there be, both mongrel, puppy, whelp, and hound, and curs a low degree. At first this dog and man were friends, but when a pig began, the dog to gain some private ends, went mad and bit the man. Around from all the neighboring streets, the wondering neighbors ran. While they swore the dog was mad, they swore the man would die. They swore the dog had lost its wits to bite so good a man. While they swore the dog was mad, they swore the man would die. But as soon a wonder came to light that showed the rogues they lied. The man recovered of the bite, and the dog it was that died. An Eulogy on the Death of a Mad Dog by Oliver Goldsmith.
Grace next. Go ahead, Trevor.
Psalm 42. As a deer pants for flowing streams, so pants my soul for you, O God. My soul thirsts for God, for the living God.
When shall I come and appear before God? My tears have been my food day and night, while they say to me all the day long, where is your God? These things I remember as I pour out my soul, how I would go with the throng and lead them in procession to the house of God, with glad shouts and songs of praise, a multitude keeping festival. Why are you cast down, O my soul? And why are you in turmoil within me? Hoping God, for I shall again praise him, my salvation and my God. My soul is cast down within me, therefore I remember you from the land of Jordan and of Hermon, from Mount Mizar. Deep calls to deep at the roar of your waterfalls, as all your breakers and your waves have gone over me. By day the Lord commands his steadfast love, and at night his song is with me, a prayer to the God of my life. I say to God, my rock, why have you forgotten me? And why do I go mourning because of the oppression of the enemy? As with a deadly wound in my bones, my adversaries taunt me, while they say to me all the day long, where is your God? Why are you cast down, O my soul? And why are you in turmoil within me? Hope in God, for I shall again praise him, my salvation and my God. Psalm 42.
Sophie next. Go ahead, Grace.
Be Glad Your Nose is on Your Face by Jack Polutsky. Be glad your nose is on your face and not pasted on some other place, for if it were where it is not, you might dislike your nose a lot. Imagine if your precious nose were sandwiched in between your toes. That clearly would not be a treat, for you'd be forced to smell your feet. Within your ear, your nose would be an absolute catastrophe, for when you were obliged to sneeze, your brain would rattle in the breeze. Your nose would be a source of dread, were attached to the top of your head. It soon would drive you to despair, forever tickled by your hair. Your nose instead, through thick and thin, remains between your eyes and chin, not pasted on some other place. Be glad your nose is on your face. Be glad your nose is on your face by Jack Polutsky.
Vikram after Sophie.
A Serious Question by Carolyn Wells. A kitten went a-walking one morning in July, and ideally fell a-talking with a great big butterfly. The kitten's tone was airy, and the butterfly would scoff, and then came along a fairy who whisked his wings right off. And for it is written, fairies can do such things. Upon the startled kitten, she stuck the yellow wings. The kitten felt a quiver, she rose into the air, she flew over to the river to view her image there. With fear her heart was smitten, and she began to cry, am I a butter kitten, or just a kitten fly? A Serious Question by Carolyn Wells.
Morgan after Vikram.
Something's there by Barbara Vance, or something down beneath my bed. What is? I'm not quite sure, but it's only just right there. I didn't notice it before. My mother says nothing, and my father shakes his head. I guess they don't believe in the thing beneath my bed. I am sure that is waiting till I turn out the last light and sit on my pillows for a very long dark night. And when I'm softly drowsing and my mind is fast asleep, out from underneath my bed, there's something there will creep. In the morning, they'll be sorry when they find my bunk empty. they'll never should have listened. I was speaking truthfully. And they'll forever mourn the day that they simply didn't care. They'll always look under their bed for something might be there. Something's There by Barbara Vance.
Claire is next. Go ahead, Morgan.
The Brook by Ellen Carhart. From a fountain in a mountain, drops of water ran, trickling through the grasses, so a book began. Slow it started, soon it darted, cool and clear and free, rippling over pebbles, hurrying to the sea. Children drain, came on playing on a pretty banks, got our little bucket, buckled up with thanks. Blossom floating, mimic boating, fishing darting past. Flipping strong and happy, winding very fast. Bubbling, singing, rushing, ringing. With a shading sun. Soon our pretty bucket to the sea had run. The book by Ellen Carhart.
Charlie next. Go ahead, Claire.
1 Samuel 2, 1-10, English Standard Version. And Hannah prayed and said, My heart exults in the Lord, mine horn exults in the Lord. My mouth derides my enemies, because I rejoice in your salvation. For there is none holy like the Lord, for there is none beside you, for there is no rock like our God. Talk no more very proudly. Do not let arrogance come from your mouth. For the Lord is the God of knowledge, and by him actions are weighed. The bow of the mighty is broken, the feeble blind on strength, and those who are full have hired themselves out for bread, and those who are hungry have ceased their hunger. The Lord kills and brings to life. He brought down Sheol and rises up. The Lord makes poor and he makes rich. He brings low and exalts. The Lord raises the poor from the dust. He raises the needy from the ashes heap. He makes them sit with princes, and he inherits the seat of honor. The pillars of the earth are Lord's, and by them he sets the world. The Lord's adversaries are broken into pieces, and against them he will thunder in the heavens. The Lord will judge the ends of the earth, and he will give strength to his kings, and he will exalt the horn of his anointed. 1 Samuel 2, 1-10, English Standard Version.
Charlie and Judah will be next.
If, by Rudyard Kipling. If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you, if you can trust yourself when all men doubt you,
but make allowance for that outing too. If you can wait and not get tired by waiting, or being lied about, don't deal in lies. Or being hated, don't give way to hating. And yet, don't look too good nor talk too wise. If you can dream and not make dreams your master, if you can think and not make thoughts your aim, if you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two impostors just the same, if you can bear to hear the truth you've spoken, twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools, or watch the things you gave your life to broken, stoop down and build them up with worn-out tools. If you can make one heap of all your winnings and risk it all on one turn of pitch and toss, and lose and start again at your beginnings and never breathe a word about your loss. If you can force your heart, nerve, and sinew to serve your turn long after they are gone, and so hold on when there is nothing in you except the will which says to them, hold on. If you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings nor lose the common touch, if neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, if all men count with you, but none too much, if you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, yours is the earth and everything in it, and which is more, you will be a man, my son, if, by Rudyard Kipling.
Jonathan after Judah.
Her Words by Anna Hempstead Branch. My mother has the prettiest tricks of words and words and words. Her talk comes out as smooth and sleek as breaths of singing birds. She shapes her speech all silver fine because she loves it so, and her own eyes begin to shine to hear her stories grow. And if she goes to make a call or out to take a walk, we leave our work when she returns and run to hear her talk. We had not dreamed these things were so, of sorrow and of mirth. Her speech is as 1,000 eyes through which we see the earth. God wove a web of loveliness, of clouds and stars and birds, but made not anything at all so beautiful as words. They shine around our simple earth with golden shadowings, and every common thing they touch is exquisite with wings. There's nothing poor and nothing small that is made fair with them. They are the hands of living faith that touch the garment's hem. They are as fair as bloom or air. They shine like any star. And I am rich who learn from her how beautiful they are. Her Words by Anna Hempstead Branch.
Jonathan, and then Bo after.
Water Striders by Paul Fleischman. Whenever we're asked if we walk upon water, we answer, "Of course, to be sure, it's quite true." Whenever we're asked if we walk upon it often, we answer, "Quite often, each day, all day through." Should we be questioned on whether it's easy, we answer, "Quite easy, it's a snap. It's a cinch." Should we be told that it's surely a miracle, we reply, balderdash, rubbish, nonsense. Whenever we are asked for instructions, we always say, "Come to the pond's end and do as we do. put down one foot and then another, resting upon the thin film on the surface. Believe me, there's no call at all to be nervous, as long as you're reasonable, mindful that you. But by the time our student, no matter how prudent, has usually, don't ask me why, sunk from view. Water Striders by Paul Fleischman.
O after is Hunter.
Isaiah 40, 1 through 11. Comfort, yes, comfort my people, says your God. Speak comfort to Jerusalem, cry it to her, that her warfare is ended, that her iniquity is pardoned. For she has received from the Lord's hand double for all her sins. The voice of one crying in the wilderness, prepare the way, make straight in the desert a highway for our God. Every valley shall be exalted, and every mountain hill brought low, the crooked place made straight, and the rough place made smooth. The glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together. The voice said, cry out, and he said, what shall I cry? All people are grass, and all its loveliness is like the flower in the field. The grass withers and the flower fades, because of the breath of the Lord has blown upon it. The grass withers and the flower fades, but the word of our God stands forever. O Zion, who bring good tidings, get up into the high mountain. O Jerusalem, who bring good tidings, lift up your voice with strength. Lift it up, be not afraid. Say to the cities of Judah, behold your God. Behold, your God shall come with a strong hand, and his arm shall rule for him. Behold, his reward is with him, and his work before him. He will feed his flock like a shepherd, and he will gather his lambs with his arm. He shall carry them in his bosom, and he shall feed those who are with the young. Isaiah 40, 1 through 11.
After Hunter is Evie.
A Psalm of Life by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. What the heart of the young man said to the psalmist. Tell me not in mournful numbers, life is but an empty dream. For the soul is dead that slumbers, and things are not what they seem. Life is real, life is earnest, and the grave is not its goal. Dust thou art, to dust returnest, was not spoken of the soul. Not enjoyment and not sorrow is our destined end or way, but to act that each tomorrow find us farther than today. Art is long and time is fleeting, and our hearts, though stout and brave, still like muffled drums are beating, funeral marches to the grave. In the world's broad field of battle, in the bivouac of life, be not like dumb driven cattle, be a hero in the strife. Trust no future, howe'er pleasant, let the dead past bury its dead. Act in the living present, heart within and God o'erhead. Lives of great men all remind us we can make our lives sublime. And, departing, leave behind us footprints on the sands of time. Footprints that perhaps another, sailing o'er life's solemn main, a forlorn and shipwrecked brother, seeing shall take heart again. Let us then be up and doing, with a heart for any fate, still achieving, still pursuing, learn to labor and to wait. A Psalm of Life by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow.
After Evie, Samantha.
Dreamland by Christina Rossetti. Where sunless rivers weep their waves into the deep, she sleeps a charmed sleep, awake her not. Led by a single star, she came from very far to seek where shadows are her pleasant lot. She left the rosy morn, she left the fields of corn, for twilight cold and lorn and water springs. Through sleep as through a veil, she sees the sky look pale, and hears the nightingale that sadly sings. Rest, rest, a perfect rest, shed over brow and breast, her face towards the west, the purple land. She cannot see the grain ripening on hill or plain. She cannot feel the rain upon her hand. Rest, rest, forevermore, upon the mossy shore. Rest, rest, at the heart's core, till time shall cease. Sleep, that no pain shall wake, night, that no morn shall break, till joy shall overtake her perfect peace. Dreamland by Christina Rossetti.
Matthew after Samantha.
The O in Hope by Lucy Shaw. Hope has this lovely vowel at its throat. Think how we cry, oh, as the sun's circle clears the ridge above us on the hill. O is the shape of a mouse singing, and a cherry as it lends its sweetness to the tongue. Oh, says the open eyes at unexpected beauty, and then, wow. O is endless as a wedding ring, a round pool, the shape of drops widening on the water's surface. O is in the center of love, and O is in the invention of the wheel. It multiplies in the zoo, doubles in the door that opens, and grows in the heart of a green wood, in the moon, and in the endless looping circuit of planets. Mood carries it, books, holy fools, cotton, a useful tool, and knitting wool. I love the doubled O in good and cosmos, and how O revolves, solves, and is in itself complete, unbroken, a circle enclosing us, holding us all together, everything in, both center and circumference, zeroing in on the omega that finds its ultimate center in the name of God. The O in Hope by Lucy Shaw.
Sarah after Matthew.
Psalm 91, English Standard Version. He who dwells in the shelter of the Most High will abide in the shadow of the Almighty. I will say to the Lord, my refuge and my fortress, my God in whom I trust. For he will deliver you from the snare of the fowler and from the deadly pestilence. He will cover you with his pinions, and under his wings you will find refuge. 1,000 may fall at your side, 10,000 at your right hand, but it will not come near you. You will only look with your eyes and see the recompense of the wicked. Because you have made the Lord your dwelling place, the Most High, who is my refuge, no evil shall be allowed to befall you, no plague come near your tent. He will command his angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways, lest you, on their hands they'll bear you up, lest you strike your foot against a stone. You will tread on the lion and the adder, the young lion and the serpent you will trample underfoot. Because he holds fast to me in love, I will deliver him. I will protect him because he knows my name. When he calls to me, I will answer him. I will be with him in trouble. I will rescue him and honor him, and with long life I will satisfy him and show him my salvation. Psalm 91, English Standard Version.
After Sarah is Isaac.
An excerpt from On the Edge of the Dark Sea of Darkness by Andrew Peterson. From where they sat, they could see the mighty Fingat Falls far to the north, roaring over the cliffs and pounding into the sea. To the south, the cliffs marched away into the distance, where they eventually curled backward and sloped downward to embrace Shard Harbor, home to Fort Lamondron, the largest fang outpost in all of Scree. It was there the black carriage bore the children taken in the night. Jenner shuddered and tried not to think about Fort Lamondron or the carriage. It wasn't hard because the dragon song was rising in pitch and volume. Hidden in their cleft of rock, Jenner forgot about the fangs. He forgot about their desperate need to find their grandfather and mother. And, like Tink, he forgot the precariousness of the edges of the high cliffs as he leaned out over the empty air and felt his heart ache. Tink was the first to see them. His breath caught in his throat, and he found that he could not speak. He tapped Lily on the knee with the back of his hand and pointed. She and Janner saw it as well. In the churning white waters at the base of Fingat Falls, a long, graceful shape burst from the surface. Its skin caught and magnified the light of the moon. The sea dragon was easily twice the height of the tallest tree in Glibwood Forest. Its reddish body glimmered like a living fire. The head was crowned with 2 curved horns, and its fin spread out behind it like wings. Indeed, it looked as if it might actually fly, but the dragon wheeled in the air and crashed back into the sea with what must have been a sound like thunder, but was inaudible over the constant roar of the waterfall. At that moment, the dragon song rose on a bright wind and filled the people gathered on the cliffs with 1,000 feelings, some peaceful, some exhilarating, all more alive than usual. An excerpt from On the Edge of the Dark Sea of Darkness by Andrew Peterson.
After Isaac is Thatcher.
Little Billy by William Makepeace Thackeray. There were 3 sailors of Bristol City who took a boat and went to sea. But first, with beef and captain's biscuits and pickled pork, they loaded she. There was Gorging Jack and Guzzling Jimmy, and the youngest, he was Little Billy. Now when they got as far as the equator, they'd nothing left but 1 split pea. Says Gorging Jack to Guzzling Jimmy, I am extremely hungry. To Gorging Jack, says Guzzling Jimmy, we nothing left. Us must eat we. Says Gorging Jack to Guzzling Jimmy, with one another we shouldn't agree. There's Little Bill, he's young and tender, we're old and tough, so let's eat he. Oh, Billy, we're going to kill and eat you. so undo the button of your shimmy. When Bill received this information, he used his pocket handkerchief. First, let me say my catechism, which my poor mammy taught me. Make haste, says guzzling Jimmy, while Jack pulled his Snickers knee. So Bill went up to the main top gallant mast, and down he fell on bended knee. He scarce had come to the 12th commandment, when up he jumps. There's land I see, Jerusalem and Madagascar and North and South America. There's a British flag riding at anchor with Admiral Napier, KCB. So when they got aboard of the Admirals, he hanged Flat Jack and flogged Jimmy. But as for little Billy, he make him the captain of 73. Little Billy by William Makepeace Thackeray.
Sylvie after Thatcher.
The Storm Dragon by Christina Baker. The storm dragon is stirring, roused from cloud-wrapped dreams. His jagged teeth begin to grind, his claws uncurl, his limbs unwind, his ashen pupils gleam. The storm dragon is stirring, his wrath begins to rise. His mighty tail now starts to thrash, his fiery breath to flare and flash. There's menace in his eyes. The storm dragon is raging. He rakes his razor claws across the blankets of the sky to burst the timid clouds on high. All heaven hears his roars. The storm dragon is raging. The world's roof is ablaze. His fury shakes the strongest trees and punishes the helpless seas beneath his brutal gaze. The storm dragon is fading, exhausted from his blast. His rasping breath has no more spark as sunlight pushes through the dark. His rage is spent at last. The storm dragon is fading, collapsing in a heap, as slumber takes the beast once more, at peace with just the faintest snore. He falls to silent sleep. The Storm Dragon by Christina Baker.
After Sylvie is Molly.
1, 2, 3 by Henry Bunner. It was an old lady and a boy that was 3:30. And the way that they played together was beautiful to see. She could not go running or jumping, and the boy no more could he. For he was a thin little fellow with a thin little twisted knee. They sat in the yellow sunlight out under the maple tree, and the game that they played, I'll tell you, just as it was told to me. It was hide-and-go-seek they were playing, though you've never known it to be, with an old lady and a boy with a twisted knee. The boy would bend his face down on his one little sound right knee, and guess where she was hiding in guesses 1, 2, 3. You're in the china closet, he would cry and laugh with glee. It wasn't the china closet, but he still had 2 and 3. You're up in Papa's big bedroom in the chest with the queer old key. And she said, you are warm and warmer, but you're not quite right, said she. It can't be the little old cupboard where Mama's things used to be. So it must be the clothes press, Grandma. And he found her with his 3. Then she covered her face with her fingers, which were wrinkled and white and wee. And guess where the boy was hiding with guesses 1, 2, 3.
and they never stirred from their places right under the maple tree. This old lady and a boy with a lame little knee. This dear old lady and a boy that was 3:30. 1, 2, 3 by Henry Bunner.
After Molly is Hattie.
An excerpt from Anne of Green Gables by L.M. Montgomery. "Oh, Mrs. Lynde, I am so extremely sorry," she said with a quiver in her voice. "I could never express all my sorrow. No, not if I used up a whole dictionary. You must just imagine it. I have behaved terribly to you, and have disgraced my dear friends Matthew and Marilla, who have let me stay at Green Gables, although I am not a boy. I am a dreadfully wicked, ungrateful girl, and I deserve to be punished and cast out by respectable people forever. It was very wicked of me to fly into a temper because you told me the truth. It was the truth. Every word you said was true. My hair is red. I am freckled and skinny and ugly. What I said to you was true too, but I shouldn't have said it. Oh, Mrs. Lynde, please forgive me. If you refuse, it will be a lifelong sorrow on a poor little orphan girl. Would you, even if she had a dreadful temper? Oh, I am sure you wouldn't. Please say you forgive me, Mrs. Lynde." Anne clasped her hands, bowed her head, and waited for the word of judgment. There was no mistaking her sincerity. It breathed in every tone of her voice. Both Marilla and Mrs. Lynde recognized the unmistakable ring, but the former understood in dismay that Anne was actually enjoying her valley of humiliation, was reveling in the thoroughness of her abasement. Where was the wholesome punishment upon which she, Marilla, had plumed herself? Anne had turned it into a species of positive pleasure. Good Mrs. Lynde, not being overburdened with perception, did not see this. She only perceived that Anne had made a very thorough apology, and all resentment vanished from her kindly, if somewhat officious heart. There, get up, child," she said heartily. "Of course I forgive you. I guess I was a little too hard on you anyway." An excerpt from Anne of Green Gables by L.M. Montgomery.
Go ahead.
I Measure Every Grief I Meet by Emily Dickinson. I measure every grief I meet with narrow, probing eyes. I wonder if it weighs like mine or has an easier size. I wonder if they bore it long or did it just begin. I could not tell the date of mine, it feels so old a pain. I wonder if it hurts to live and if they have to try. And whether could they choose between, it would not be to die. I know that some gone patient long at length renew their smiles, an imitation of a light that has so little oil. I wonder if when years have piled some thousands on the harm that hurt them early, such a lapse could give them any balm. Or would they go on aching still through centuries of nerve, enlightened to a larger pain in contrast with the love? The griefs are many, I am told. There is the various cause. Death is but one and comes but once, and only nails the eyes. There's grief of want and grief of cold, a sort they call despair. There's banishment from native eyes in sight of native air. And though I may not guess the kind correctly yet to me, a piercing comfort it affords in passing cavalry. To note the fashions of the cross and how they're mostly worn, still fascinated to presume that some are like my own. I Measure Every Grief I Meet by Emily Dickinson.
Fleas by Jimmy Hillick. Fleas. Adam had 'em. I forgot. That's it right now.
All right, let's start up one more time. Let's again ask the Lord to bless these students. Let's stand together. Father, we're grateful again that you've brought us here together, and for the students' hard work, and parents and teachers. We pray that you'd be with the students now, give them calm and remembrance of their work. For Christ's sake, amen. All right, we'll do 7th, 8th, and 9th grade, take another, maybe a 10-minute stand break, bathroom break, and then come back and do the 10th, 11th, 12th grade. So, all right, who do we have first?
Maddie Cross, followed by Caleb.
An excerpt from Tom Sawyer by Mark Twain. Sid flew down the stairs and said, "Aunt Polly, come quick. Tom's dying." "Dying?" "Yes'm, don't wait. Come quick." "Rubbish. I don't believe it." But she flew upstairs nevertheless, with Sid and Mary at her heels, and her face grew white too, and her lip trembled. When she reached the bedpost, she gasped out, "You, Tom, what's the matter with you?" "Oh, Auntie, What's the matter with you? What is the matter with you, child?" "Oh, Auntie, my sore toes, mortified." The old lady sank into a chair, then laughed a little, then cried a little, then did both together. This restored her, and she said, "Tom, what a turn you did give me. Now shut up that nonsense and climb out of this." The groans ceased, and the pain vanished from the toe. The boy felt a little foolish and said, "Aunt Polly, it seemed mortified, and it hurt, so I never minded my tooth at all." "Your tooth, indeed. What's the matter with your tooth?" "One of them's loose, and it aches perfectly awful." There now, don't start that groaning again. Open your mouth." "Well, your tooth is loose, but you're not going to die about that. Mary, give me a silk thread and a piece of fire out of the kitchen." Tom said, "Oh, please, Auntie, don't pull it out. It don't hurt anymore. And I wish I may never stir if it does. Oh, please, Auntie, I don't want to stay home from school." "Oh, you don't, do you? So all of this rows because you thought you'd stay home from school and go a-fishing? Tom, I love you so, but you try to do everything to break my old heart with your outrageousness." By this time, the dental instruments were ready. The old lady fastened one end of the silk thread to Tom's tooth with a loop, and the other to the bedpost. Then she seized the chunk of fire and thrust it almost into the boy's face. The tooth hung by the bedpost now. But all trials bring their compensation, as Tom wended to school after breakfast. He was the envy of every boy he met, because the gap in his upper row of teeth enabled him to expectorate in a new and admirable way. He gathered quite a following of lads interested in the exhibition. And one boy, who had cut his finger and had been the center of fascination and homage up to this point, now found himself without an adherent and shorn of his glory. And he said with a disdain, which he did not feel, that it wasn't anything to spit like Tom Sawyer. But another boy said, "Sour grapes," and he wandered away a dismantled hero. An excerpt from Tom Sawyer by Mark Twain.
The Beatitudes, Matthew chapter 5. And seeing the multitudes, he went up on the mountain. And when he was seated, his disciples came to him. And he opened his mouth and taught them, saying, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called sons of God. And blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. And blessed are you when they revile you and persecute you and say all kinds of evil against you for my sake. Rejoice and be exceedingly glad, for great is your reward in heaven. For so they persecuted the prophets who were before you. You are the salt of the earth, but if salt loses its flavor, how shall it be seasoned? It is good for nothing but to be thrown out and trampled underfoot by men. You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden, nor do people light a lamp and set it under a basket, but on a lampstand, so it may give light to all who are in the house. Let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven. Beatitudes, Matthew chapter 5.
Adam, and after Adam, Carson.
A selection from Much Ado About Nothing, Act 4, Scene 2, by William Shakespeare. Is our whole assembly appeared? I and my partner be the malefactor, sir, and here be the offender. Write down his name, Horatio, and his master, gentleman, comrade. Masters, do you serve God? Write down that they hope they serve God, and write God first. For God defend, but God should go before such villains. Masters, it is proved already that you are little better than false knaves, and will go near to be thought so shortly. Masters, how do you answer for yourselves? I say to you, it is thought you are false knaves. For God they are both entail. Have you writ down that they are none? Yea, Mary, that is the eftest way. Let the watch come forth. Masters, I charge you in the prince's name, accuse these men. 1,000 ducats, flat burglary. O villain, thou wilt be condemned into everlasting redemption for this. Come, bind them, thou naughty varlet. Dost thou not suspect my place? Dost thou not suspect my years? Oh, that the sexton were here to write me down as an ass. But masters, remember that I am an ass. Though it not be written down, forget not that I am an ass. O thou villain, thou wilt be condemned into everlasting redemption for this. Thou wilt be condemned into everlasting redemption for this. O villain, thou art full of piety, as shall be proved upon thee by good witness. I am a wise fellow, and which is more, an officer, and which is more, a householder, and which is more, as pretty a piece of flesh as any in Messina. And one that knows the law, go to, and a rich fellow enough, go to, and a fellow that hath had losses, and a fellow that hath had 2 gowns, and everything handsome about him. Bring him away. Oh, that I had been writ down an ass. A selection from Much Ado About Nothing, Act 4, Scene 2, by William Shakespeare.
Carson Spencer.
An excerpt from Shakespeare's Henry V. This day is called the Feast of St. Crispin. What is he that wishes so? My cousin, Westmoreland? No, my fair cousin. If we are marked to die, we are enough to do our country loss. And if to live, the fewer men, the greater share of honor. God's will, I pray thee, wish not one man more. By Jove, I am not covetous for gold, nor care I who doth feed upon my costs. It yearns me not if men my garments wear. Such outward things dwell not in my desires. But if it be a sin to covet honor, I am the most offending soul alive. No faith, my coz, wish not a man from England. God's peace I would not lose so great an honor as one man more methinks would share from me for the best hope I have. Oh, do not wish one more. Rather, proclaim it, Westmoreland, through my host, he which hath no stomach to this fight, let him depart. His passport shall be made, and crowns for convoy put into his purse. We would not die in that man's company who fears his fellowship to die with us. This day is called the Feast of St. Crispian. He that outlives this day and comes safe home will stand tiptoe when the day is named, and shall be roused to the name of Crispian. He that outlives this day and sees old age will yearly on the vigil feast his neighbors and say, tomorrow is St. Crispian's day. Then he will strip his sleeves and show his scars and say, these wounds I had upon St. Crispian's day. Old men forget, yet all shall be forgot. But he will remember with advantages what feats he did that day. Then shall our names, familiar in his mouth as household words, Harry the King, Bedford and Exeter, Warwick and Talbot, Salisbury and Gloucester, be in their cups freshly remembered. This story shall the good man teach his son, and Crispian shall ne'er go by. From this day to the ending of the world, we in it shall be remembered. We few, we happy few, we band of brothers. For he today who sheds his blood with me shall be my brother. Be he ne'er so vile, this day shall gentle his condition. Gentlemen in England, now abed, shall feel themselves accursed that they were not here, and hold their manhoods cheap, whilst any speaks who fought with us upon St. Crispian's day. This day is called the Feast of St. Crispin, an excerpt from Shakespeare's Henry V.
After Spencer, Ian.
The Medieval Cosmos, an excerpt from The Planets by C.S. Lewis. Lady Luna in Light Canoe by Friths and Shallows of Fretted Cloudland, cruises monthly with chrism of dew and drench of dream, a drizzling glamour, enchants us, the cheap, changing sometimes, a mind to madness, melancholy pale, bleach with gazing on her blank countenance, orbed and ageless, in earth's bosom, the shower of her rays, sharp feathered light, reaching downward, ripened silver, forming and fashioning female brightness, metal maidenlike, her moist circle is nearest earth. Next beyond her, Mercury marches, madcap rover, pert quicksilver, patron of pilfers, his gaze begets goblin mineral, merry multitude of meeting selves, same but sundered from the soul's darkness. With wreathed wand, words he marshals, guides and gathers them, gay bellwether of flocking fancies. His flint has struck the spark of speech from spirits tender. Lord of language, he leads forever, that spangle and splendor sport that mingles. Words in wedlock, and in wedding also of things with thought. The Medieval Cosmos, an excerpt from The Planets by C.S. Lewis.
After Ian, Hayes.
An excerpt from The Wind in the Willows by Kenneth Grahame. As they neared the door, it was flung open, and Mr. Toad, arrayed in goggles, cap, gaiters, and enormous overcoat, came swaggering down the steps, drawing on his gauntleted gloves. "Hello, come on, you fellows," he cried cheerfully on catching sight of them. "You're just in time to come with me for a jolly... His hearty accents faltered and fell away as he noticed the stern, unbending look on his companions. His invitation remained unfinished. The Badger strode up to the steps. "Take him inside," he said he ordered sternly to his companions. Then, as Toad was hustled through the doorway, struggling and protesting, he turned to the chauffeur in charge of the new motor car. "I'm afraid you won't be wanted today," he said. "Mr. Toad has changed his mind. He will not require the car. Please understand that this is final. You needn't wait." Then he followed the others inside and shut the door. "Now then," he said to the Toad when the four of them stood together in the hallway, "first of all, take those ridiculous things off." "Shan't!" cried the Toad with great spirit. "What is the meaning of this gross outrage? I demand an instant explanation." "Take them off him then, you two," the Toad ordered briefly. The Badger ordered briefly. They had to lay Toad out on the floor, kicking and calling all sorts of names, before they could get to work on him properly. Then the Rat sat on him, and the Mole got his motor clothes off him bit by bit. Then they stood him up on his 2 legs again. A good deal of his blustering spirit seemed to have evaporated with the removal of his fine panoply. Now that he was merely Toad, and no longer the terror of the highway, he giggled feebly and looked from one to the other appealingly, seeming quite to understand the situation. "You knew it would have to come to this sooner or later, Toad," he said. You've misregarded all the warnings we've given you. You've gone on squandering the money your father left you, and you're giving us animals a bad name in the district by your furious drivings, your smashes, and your rows with the police. Independence is all very well, but we animals never let our friends make fools of themselves beyond a certain limit. And that limit you have reached. Now, you're a good fellow in many respects, and I don't want to be too hard on you. I will make one more attempt to bring you to reason. You will come with me into the smoking room. Here's some facts about yourself. Then we shall see whether or not you come out of that room the same Toad that went in." Then he took the Toad firmly by the arm, led him into the smoking room, and shut the door behind them. "That's no good," said the Rat contemptuously. "Talking to Toad will never cure him. He'll say anything." An excerpt from The Wind in the Willows by Kenneth Grahame.
After Hayes is Eli.
The Touch of a Master's Hand by Myra Brooks Welch. 'Twas battered and scarred, and the auctioneer thought it was scarcely worth his while to waste much time on the old violin, but he held it up with a smile. "What am I bidding, good folks?" he cried. "Who'll start this bidding for me? $1? $1? Then 2? Only 2? Who'll make it 3? $3 once, $3 twice, and going for 3. But no. From the room, far back, a gray-haired man came forward. He picked up the bow, and then wiping the dust from the violin, he tightened its loose strings and played a melody pure and sweet as the caroling angels sing. When the music ceased, the auctioneer said in a voice that was quiet and low, "Now what am I bid for the old violin?" And he held it up with the bow. $1,000. Who'll make it 2? 2,000. Who'll make it 3? 3,000 once, 3,000 twice, and going and gone, he said. The people cheered. Some of them cried. We did not quite understand what changed the worth of this old violin, but swift came the reply, the touch of a master's hand. And many a man with life out of tune, battered and scarred with sin, is auctioned cheap to the thoughtless crowd, much like the old violin. A mess of pottage, a glass of wine, a game, and he travels on. He's going once, he's going twice, he's going, and almost gone. But then the master comes, and the foolish crowd never quite can understand the worth of a soul and the change that's wrought by the touch of a master's hand. The Touch of a Master's Hand by Myra Brooks Welch.
After Eli is Savannah.
Embalming by Scott Cairns. You'll need a corpse, your own or someone else's. You'll need a certain distance. The less you care about your corpse, the better. Light should be unforgiving so as to lend a literal aspect to your project. Flesh should be putty, each hair of the brows, each lash a pencil mark. If the skeleton is intact, its shape may suggest beginnings of a structure, though even here modification might occur. Heavier tools are waiting in the drawer, as well as wire, varied lengths and thicknesses of doweling. Odd hollows may be filled with bundled towel. As for the fluids, arrange them on the cart in a pleasing manner. I prefer we speak of ointments. This notion of one's anointing will help distract you from the simpler stories of your handiwork. Those people in the parlor made requests. Remember? Don't be concerned. Whatever this was to them, it is all yours now. The clay of your creation lies before you, invites your hand. Becoming anxious? That's good. You should be a little anxious. You're ready. Now, hold the knife as you would a quill. Hardly at all. See that first line before you cross it, and draw. Embalming by Scott Cairns.
After Savannah is Charlotte.
An excerpt from The Silver Chair by C.S. Lewis. "One word, ma'am," he said, coming back from the fire, limping because of the pain. "One word. All you've been saying is quite right. I shouldn't wonder. I'm a chap who's always liked to know the worst, then put the best face I can on it. So I won't deny any of what you said. But there's one more thing to be said. Even so. Suppose we have only dreamed or made up all those things, trees and grass and sun and moon and stars and Aslan himself. Suppose we have. Then all I can say is, in that case, that the made-up things seem a good deal more important than the real ones. And that's a funny thing when you come to think of it. We're just babies making up a game, if you're right. But 4 babies playing a game can make a play world, which licks your real world hollow. That's why I'm going to stand by the play world. I'm on Aslan's side, even if there isn't any Aslan to lead it. I'm going to live as like a Narnian, as I can, even if there isn't any Narnia. So thanking you kindly for our supper, if these 2 gentlemen and the young lady are ready, we're leaving your court at once and setting out in the dark to spend our lives looking for Overland. Not that our lives should be very long, I should think, but that's a funny thing when you... But that's a small loss if the world's as dull as a place, as you say. An excerpt from The Silver Chair by C.S. Lewis.
After Charlotte is Tallis.
Seashell by G.L. Lindsay. I stopped and picked it up, a little curled seashell, warm to gentle touch, light to an open palm. There is a ghost of a whispering silence, begging to be heard, and I smiled, for I knew its secret. It carried the ocean, with it, in it, breathing a storm from far away, or the lap of a tide from early morning, gray, misty, and silent. And I held it up to hear its own little story, the soft memories that came from long ago and how they were carried in its small heart for so long. It whispered the story to my heart, and I put the little seashell back on the sandy shoreline. And although every shell sounds the same, it remembers that each remembers its own little story, once upon a long, long ago time, and whispers it out like the tides of the sea. Seashell by J.L. Lindsay.
After Tallis is Mark.
A selection from The Flaming Terrapin by Roy Campbell. Then the old serpent, with a voice that fell, loud as the hammer of a groaning bell that rocks a steeple, launched his fatal cry, hounding the laden echoes through the sky. Yawn, you great gaps, you starred abysses, yawn to swill the fiery vintage of the dawn. Nature's grim forces, heavy with their sleep, rise up in red rebellion from the deep, and strong chain thunders, rifting from stone to stone, surge underground with a subterraneous moan. Volcanoes in eruption, loud and dire, sprawl with baobabs of fire, and writhe their horrid branches to the moon. With crackling din, hark how shrill the typhoon skirls in the towers of Sodom like a cricket, fiddling her death dance, splintered like a wicket. Tall Babels crumples up, the gaunt abyss sucks in darkness with a mournful hiss, gaping for hunger, the swirling in its throat, the shadow of a stormy whirlpool float. Let old corruption on his spangled throne tremble to hear the jagged rifts of stone roar for his mangled carrion. Old earth writhes in the anguish of a second birth, and now cast off her shriveled hide to be the sun's fair bride, as bright as pure as he, fleeced like a god in rosy curls of fire, with massive limbs stiffened by fierce desire. He leaps, and as she yields her golden thigh, gigantic copulations shake the sky. A selection from The Flaming Terrapin by Roy Campbell.
After Marley is Shamora.
The Dash by Linda Ellis. I read of a man who stood to speak at the funeral of a friend. He referred to the dates on a tombstone from the beginning to the end. He noted that first came the date of her birth and spoke of the following dates with tears. But he said what matters most of all was the dash between those years. For that dash represents all the time she had spent alive on earth. And now only those who loved her know what that little line is worth. For it matters not how much we own, the cars, the house, the cash. What matters is how we live and love and how we spend our dash. So think about this long and hard. Are there things you like to change? For you never know how much time is left, which can still be rearranged. If we could just slow down enough to consider what's true and real, and always try to understand the way other people feel, and be less quick to anger and show appreciation more, and love the people in our lives like we never loved before. If we treat each other with respect and more often wear a smile, remembering that this special dash might only last a little while. So when your eulogy is being read with your life actions to rehash, would you be proud of the things they say about how you spend your dash? The Dash by Linda Ellis.
After Shemora is Henry.
Content by George Herbert from the Temple. Peace, muttering thoughts, and do not grudge to keep within the walls of your own breast, who cannot on his own bed sweetly sleep, can on another's hardly rest. Gad not abroad at every quest and call of an untrained hope or passion. To court each place or fortune that doth fall is wantonness and contemplation. Mark how the fire in flints doth quiet lie, content, and warm to itself alone, but when it would appear to others' eye, without a knock it never shone. Give me the pliant mind, whose gentle measure complies and suits him with all states, which, to let loose a crown, and yet pleasure, take up within a cloister's gates. This soul doth span the world, and hang content, from either pole unto center, where, in the room of the well-furnished tent, he lies warm and without adventure. The brags of life are but a 9 days' wonder, and, after death, the fumes that spring from private bodies that make as big a thunder as those which rise from a huge king. Only thy chronicle is lost, and yet better by worms be all once spent than to have hellish moths that gnaw and fret thy name in book, which may not rent. Then cease discoursing, soul, till thine own ground. Do not thyself or friends importune. He that by seeking he himself once found, hath ever found a happy fortune. Content by George Herbert from the Temple.
After Henry is Parker.
Ronald Reagan's speech at the Brandenburg Gate of the Berlin Wall, June 12, 1987. In the 1950s, Khrushchev predicted, "We will bury you." But in the West today, we see a free world that has achieved a level of prosperity and well-being unprecedented by all human history. In the communist world, we see failure, technological backwardness, declining standards of health, and even want of the most basic kind, too little food. Even today, the Soviet Union still cannot feed themselves. After these 4 decades, then, there stands before the entire world one great and inescapable conclusion. Freedom leads to prosperity. Freedom replaces the ancient hatreds among the nations with comity and peace. Freedom is the victor. And now, the Soviets themselves may, in a limited way, be coming to understand the importance of freedom. We hear much from Moscow about a new policy of reform and openness. Some political prisoners have been released. Certain foreign broadcasts are no longer being jammed. And some economic enterprises are being permitted to operate with greater freedom from state control. Are these the beginnings of profound changes in the Soviet state? Or are they intended to raise false hopes in the West, or to strengthen the Soviet system without changing it? We welcome change and openness, for we believe that freedom and security go together, that the advance of human liberty can only strengthen the cause of world peace. There's one sign the Soviets can make that would be unmistakable, that would advance dramatically the cause of freedom and peace. General Secretary Gorbachev, if you seek peace, if you seek prosperity for Eastern Europe and the Soviet Union, if you seek liberalization, come here to this gate. Mr. Gorbachev, open this gate. Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall. Ronald Reagan's speech at the Brandenburg Gate of the Berlin Wall, June 12, 1987.
After Parker is Micah.
Hannibal, addressed to his soldiers after crossing the Alps, 218 BC. If, soldiers, you shall by and by, in judging of your own fortune, preserve the same feelings which you experienced a little before in the example of the fate of others, you have already conquered. For neither was that merely a spectacle, but, as it were, a certain representation of your condition. And I know not whether fortune has not thrown around you still stronger chains and more urgent necessities than around your captives. On the right and left, 2 seas enclose you, without your possessing even a single ship for escape. The river Po around you, the Po larger and more impetuous than the Rhone, the Alps behind, which scarcely pass by you when fresh and vigorous, hem you in. Here, soldiers, where you have first met the enemy, you must conquer or die. And the same fortune which has imposed upon you the necessity of fighting holds out to you, if victorious, greater rewards than which men are not wont to desire greater, even from the immortal gods. And if we were only about to recover by our valor Sicily and Sardinia, wrested from our fathers, the recompense would be sufficiently ample. But all, acquired and amassed by so many triumphs the Romans possess, all with its masters themselves will become yours. To gain this great reward, hasten then and seize your arms with the favor of the gods. There is a necessity for you to be brave, since all between death and victory has been broken off from you by inevitable despair. And to conquer, or, if fortune should waver, to meet death rather in battle than in flight. If this be well fixed and determined in the minds of you all, I repeat, we have already conquered. Hannibal, addressed to his soldiers after crossing the Alps, 218 BC.
After Micah is Miles.
Doomsday by George Herbert from the Temple. Come away, oh make no stay. Summon all the dust to rise, till it stir and rub the eyes. While this member jogs the other, each one whispering, live you, brother? Come away, make this the day. Dust, alas, no music feels, but thy trumpet, then it kneels. As peculiar notes and strains cure tarantulas, raging pains. Come away, oh make no stay. Let the graves make their confession, lest at length they plead possession. Flesh's stubbornness may have read that lesson to the grave. Come away. Thy flock doth stray. Some to winds their body lend, and in them may drown a friend. Some in noisome vapors grow, to a plague and public woe. Come away, help our decay. Man is out of order hurled, parceled out to all the world. Lord, thy broken concert raise, and the music shall be praise. Doomsday by George Herbert from the Temple.
After Miles is Isaac.
Woodman, Spare That Tree by George Morris. Woodman, spare that tree, touch not a single bough. In youth it sheltered me, and I'll protect it now. 'Twas my forefather's hand that placed it near his cot. There, woodman, let it stand, thy axe shall harm it not. That old familiar tree, whose glory and renown are spread o'er land and sea, and wouldst thou hew it down? Woodman, forbear thy stroke, cut not its earthbound ties. Forbear, spare that aged oak now towering the skies. When but an idle boy, I sought its grateful shade. In all their gushing too, here too, my sisters played. My mother kissed me here, my father pressed my hand. Forgive this foolish tear, but let that old oak stand. My heartstrings round thee cling, as close as thy bark, old friend. Here shall the wild birds sing, and still thy branches bend. Old tree, the storm still brave, and woodman, leave that spot while I have a hand to save. Thy axe shall harm it not. Woodman, spare that tree, by George Morris.